Whoa, it's episode 100 of the podcast. Definitely a monumental point within any podcast is to get to 100 episodes. And I'm so excited to be here. And I'm thankful for all of you that are here with me. And today I wanted to change it up a little bit. Most of the time, I give you a lot of knowledge on things around public speaking and communication. But today I actually wanted to reintroduce myself for those of you that don't know me. And I haven't really done much of an introduction here on the podcast because I believe most of you have probably found me from social media. But just in case you haven't found me from social media, I want to introduce myself a little bit and give you a little bit of background on where I came from to where I'm at now. I promise it's not my whole origin story, but it's all related around the podcast and why I decided to start it, as well as my business. So if you don't already know, my name is Philip Sessions. I am first and foremost a Christian husband and father of currently one beautiful little girl who's about 18 months old. And I never thought I would ever say months like that. I always figured I'd say year and a half. And I'm starting to get to that, but sometimes I throw the months in there instead. But I'm telling myself now, and you can follow up with me in 6 months to see if I stop at 2 years and start saying 2 years old, 2.5, 3, things of that nature rather than the months. But it's been an interesting journey being a father, but it's been an even maybe not even more interesting, but there's definitely been a lot of things that have happened on my journey through entrepreneurship so far and my journey within this podcast. And one of the questions that most people ask me is, what got you started with being a speaking coach, helping people with public speaking and communication skills? And that goes to a job that I don't have at this moment, but I still work at the same company, being BMW Manufacturing. I started with BMW Manufacturing at the end of 2019 as a upper level systems specialist, which really just means that I was doing upper level systems within the body shop where we tracked cars as they went through the process of being built. And I know that may seem a little complex, but outside of all the complexity of that job, outside of the job itself, I was working on my self development, working on being in business groups and learning more about business. And I'd started with fitness actually, because that was a big passion for me. That's something that I really enjoyed. And I spent about a year or a year and a half in that. Really wasn't finding traction, but then also was finding that I wasn't enjoying fitness anymore. And so a year and a half into BMW, I was starting to figure out, what do I really want to do? I'm really not feeling this fitness thing. I'm helping a few people out. I've got a few clients, but I really just can't figure out how to make more money for one thing, but two, how to make it where I really enjoy it. Because I was getting some people results, but not as many people as I wanted to. And I wasn't creating quite the impact that I wanted to, both on my life personally, but as of course, as well, the life of the people that I was working with and their families and so on and so forth. And I felt like I could only go with one individual or one family at a time. And it seemed very limiting. So I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I love business, but I hadn't really been a business owner for really that long. I had my own business, but I hadn't really ran a successful business. So some imposter syndrome there. And then leadership kind of came up. Like, you know what? I've always been a natural leader. That's something that happens for me naturally. And then when I get in groups, people want me to end up being the leader, but I've never been a titled leader in the corporate world. And I said, you know what, I'm going to try and push through this and I'm going to fight this imposter syndrome. And I ended up landing a job as a leadership and transformation specialist there at BMW in the HR training department, which was a really great opportunity. I learned a lot while I was there about the company, about how HR works, about how training development works. For the short 7 months that I was there until they asked me to go back to engineering back where I was at. And while I was there, something came up with presentation skills. And I thought, you know what? That's interesting because I'm feeling this imposter syndrome when it comes to leadership skills, but I've already been on about 2 stages at that point. And how I wanted to get started on speaking on more stages And with this whole presentation skills curriculum, I realized there's a huge opportunity here. And I felt less imposter syndrome doing that because I've already done it. It's not something that, I mean, it is a skill, but it's different than having not been a leader, trying to teach leadership principles, especially in the corporate environment. So I decided to go down that route. And that's where public speaking, where presentation skills, and all of that stuff really came into play for me. And so that was mid 2020, something like that, or sorry, 2021. And so I started doing that, and then 7 months in, they pulled me out of HR back over to the upper level systems specialist at BMW, and I just started going with that outside of work. I officially launched my LLC in February of 2022. So it took me roughly, let's call it 6 or 7 months before I decided to pull the trigger on the LLC, decided to test it out a little bit and just make sure it was the right thing. I didn't really want to just, I mean, I dove into it on my social media platform and everything, but I wanted to make sure it was something that was right for me. And I started seeing where I could really impact people, because I could go speak on stage and I could speak in front of 10 people, 100 people, eventually 1,000 people, and really make some impact that way. But then I could also teach one person, two persons, three people, and so on and so forth, to be able to speak in front of the same amount of people. And now I've exponentially grown my impact because I'm helping one person who goes and speaks to many people. And so that seemed like a more scalable model for me to be able to create the impact that I really wanted to create. So that's why and how I got started with the public speaking route. But when it comes to what I train on specifically, for those of you that maybe you don't know what I train on, I do talk a lot about speaking, about communication, but that's what I teach about is workplace communication at the end of the day. Also, for the entrepreneurs out there that want to learn about podcasts, we talk about interviewing, we talk about how to have that active listening. So as you're interviewing somebody on a podcast or you're interviewing them for a job, you can be able to listen and kind of hear between the lines, see between the lines of what they're really saying, because you can say the right thing, but a lot of times we'll say things that people want to hear, but we really mean something different. So giving them those skills as well as presentation skills, so that way they can present to a group of investors, they can present to a boardroom if they're in the corporate world, and they can present on stage. So giving them the curriculum, the concepts, and the structure behind how to create a speech or create a presentation for that, as well as their communication skills, so they can start working more, or you also can start working more on the business versus in the business. Because if you don't know how to communicate properly and transfer knowledge, you cannot effectively start working on the business and leading the business and working on just the vision. You're going to get stuck in the role of being an operator. And as somebody who speaks and needs to communicate effectively, that's important for you, because if you don't communicate effectively, you can't delegate as well. So really help with the workplace communications overall. So meetings, presentations, and delegation, essentially interview skills, things of those nature are what I really help out with when it comes to my clients. And so I do that through group coaching as well as one-on-one coaching. But that was just a little background on why I got started, how I got started, and I hope to be able to impact millions of people one day. Right now, I would say I'm up to almost 1,000, because I've spoken in front of a couple of hundred audience members. I've trained about 10 people officially. There's definitely a lot of people I've given tips to, so I'm not going to count those, but officially I've trained about 10 people. And then, of course, all of you that have listened here, I'm up to about 3,000 downloads. Actually, by the time this comes out, I should be at 3,000 downloads on the podcast. I have over 60,000 views on YouTube, and who knows how many on all the other social media platforms. But I definitely put myself out there and my message out there. And that has helped me tremendously with my confidence, which actually is an underlying theme that I always help out with, is helping you build up the knowledge and the structure so that you can go out there and have confidence in your message. And every single person that I've worked with, no matter how confident they came in before us working together, came out more confident afterwards, which is such an important thing when it comes to your speaking and communication skills. But I look forward to continuing to help you out. Even if it's just you listening to this, I hope that you want to become a coaching client of mine so I can help you out more closely and give you actual specific strategies for what you need. But if you just decide to listen here, that's fine as well. All I ask is that you share this podcast with somebody, that you leave a review for us, or if you're watching over on YouTube, leave a comment, subscribe there so we can continue to grow this message and so I can continue to impact more people, because the more people I can help impact, the more people they can help out. So it's not about me. It's not a selfish thing about me being able to create more impact and reach some arbitrary goal that I have. This is about changing lives. And that doesn't come just from me. It starts with me because I'm going to start it, but it comes from the people that I help. So if you want to be one of those people that gets to change lives as well, I'd love to help you out. But make sure that you do subscribe here so you can continue to learn, continue to grow, and make that impact that you were meant to create.